take any questions that any of you may have.
So if you open this up to making sure that all votes are counted, even if it's wrong polling place, no signature, no printed name, is there some sort of policing or oversight, extra policing or extra oversight that needs to be put in place as well to sort of make sure, okay, even though you voted and you voted at the wrong polling place, we need to make sure that you didn't vote for the wrong races? Is there any sort of extra oversight to stop that?
Yes, the way that this is done in other states and could be done in Ohio and is done for some ballots in Ohio that are cast at the correct polling place but the wrong precinct, those ballots are counted down to the race where they were eligible to vote. So sometimes the ballots are nearly identical. There may be a liquor option or some very local race that they were not eligible to vote in. So what would happen is we would count those votes down to that place where they were eligible to vote. That's what other states do. That's what Ohio should do, and restore people's rights rather than disenfranchising them for really voting in the wrong location for no fault of their own. Often a poll worker tells them, hey, you're in the right spot, here's your ballot.
So is that like a person, not a machine, but a person like looking through to make sure? Is it just to...
Typically, it's bipartisan election officials going over those ballots which were cast in the wrong polling place due to poll worker error. So it's a process that's done by hand, counting those votes down to the race where they were eligible.
They're counting it by hand anyway because it's already on the paper ballot.
You know, I'm not quite sure about that. They may take the ballots out of the envelope and process them through the machine, but I don't know down to that detail. But it is a by hand process.
Do other state?
Let me go behind you.
Yeah, I was just going to ask about like 17-year-olds voting because there was that conflict that John, who stood for, said that their votes weren't going to be counted. Is that going to protect the 17-year-old votes as well?
Luckily, we had a court victory that protects those 17-year-olds and their right to vote. So those votes were counted in the presidential primary, and absent, hopefully, there's no legislation to change that. Those rights will be protected going forward.
Do other states have the presumption that your bill is going to be doing? Do other states do what your bill proposes to do?
You know, I don't know if this bill is exactly how it's done in other states, but I know that with our count rate being one of the worst in the country, I'm sure there's some version of this that is done in other states. Other states, for example, count the provisional ballots cast in the wrong polling place. A majority of them do. So I believe that other states do not place so much burden on the voter. They may just do it in a little bit of a different way. But again, they're doing more to count people's votes and to be voter friendly than Ohio is with such a high rejection rate.
Do you know if the votes that were rejected are heavily on one side or the other?
I would assume, and we may have data showing this, but because the rates of rejection and provisional voting are higher in presidential elections when Democratic voter turnout is higher, we do have some information about those voters, and we do believe that this is targeting less frequent voters, more transient voters. Those are the ones that generally have to do a provisional ballot. Younger voters, and those voters do tend to lean Democratic. So I do believe there are partisan implications in these policies, and we really need to take that out of our voting laws and let the voters decide.
Representative, I haven't.
You go there and then Mark.
Republicans often cited voter fraud for reasons for tightening some of the regulations for voter requirements. Any concerns about possible voter fraud and on the off chance that someone is trying to vote more than once or something like that?
No, we would be verifying the identity of the voter through the information that's provided, but what we're trying to avoid is the gotcha factor. If they maybe make one minor mistake or leave something off, which is pretty common, or they sign and write in cursive instead of print. We gotta get rid of those reasons for disenfranchising people and throwing out their vote, but we'll still be able to verify that they are an eligible registered voter, or their vote won't be counted. We're not trying to count ineligible votes. We're just trying to reverse this problem of throwing out so many votes. Mark?
You've offered a number of bills, amendments, kind of along these lines in the past. Republicans don't support them. Why is this bill going to end in any differently than those did?
Well, my job is to be a lawmaker. I was elected just like 98 other colleagues that I serve with, and this legislation is common sense. It will solve an actual problem that we face in Ohio elections, and all I can do, Mark, is study the issues, put forward common sense legislation, and ask that my colleagues put the partisanship aside when it comes to voting in our election process and pass meaningful election reform. And I will continue to do that as long as I'm in office.
Does the state currently have a problem with voting fraud?
No, and in fact, our Secretary of State has come out with a report on voter fraud and showed how minuscule the problem is, and he passed that information along to prosecutors. Very few prosecutions went forward. That is a myth that is brought out by the Republicans to pass harmful voting restrictions, and we do not